Hey, folks, welcome back to LettermenRow.com. I'm Jeremy Birmingham. That's Spencer Holbrook. We're debuting a new recruiting video segment here today, and quite simply, it's called The List. And The List is going to be a rundown over the next couple weeks, months of who is what we consider anyway, a must-get for the Ohio State recruiting class of 2022 and beyond. Right now, the Buckeyes have the country's best class in the class of 2022, and clearly have done a pretty darn good job, but that doesn't mean there aren't kids out there who are a must get. Spencer, where are we starting?
We're starting with an offensive tackle from Charleston, Indiana, Kiante Goodwin.
Kiante is outside of Louisville. He's a kid who in the last year has lost 100 pounds and gained about 50 offers. In doing so, he's up to, according to his 247 profile, up to 53 scholarship offers. Ohio State was one of the early ones. And Spencer, when you look at Ohio State as a program that has guys like Quinn Ewers and C.J. Stroud and Kyle McCord and Travion Henderson and Evan Pryor and all these wide receivers, somebody has to block, right? So, I mean, at some point, the Buckeyes, and we talked about it a little bit on Talking Stuff on Monday night, the focus here has to be going out and winning one of those huge national recruiting battles. And as we mentioned with Kiante Goodwin, that's what it's turning into.
Yeah, and the Buckeyes have done a pretty decent job at getting their number one guy in a lot of these classes. And 2021 was just a little different. I think the momentum was slowed down due to the pandemic. I think if there was no pandemic and this was a normal year, we'd be having conversations about Ohio State tackle J.C. Latham, maybe Ohio State tackle Tristan Lay. But instead, things just didn't go the Buckeyes' way. And I think this is a must get in the sense of they need a tackle prospect, a can't miss tackle prospect in this 2022 class. You got a can't miss tackle prospect in 2020 with Paris Johnson. You got a can't miss tackle or guard prospect, in 2021 and Donovan Jackson. You got a few guys in the mix as well there with the different role players that they bring in along that offensive line aside from those guys. But you have to land a tackle in this class. And for this recruiting battle to now go national in an area that, that Louisville, Southern Indiana area is just, you don't really know how to characterize it because you don't really go down there very often for guys. And I think that this is going to be a big battle between the biggest schools in the country for Kiante Goodwin.
Yeah, it's not an area where there are traditionally a lot of big time battles. And I think you brought up J.C. Latham and Tristan Lay, and that's why it's so important for Ohio State to win this one, because to go out and to lead for J.C. Latham as they did for a good portion of his recruitment and to lose him to Alabama. And then for Tristan Lee, who you kept hearing about, talking about, thinking, hey, maybe we can get him to come visit. He never did. And then scoots off to Clemson, basically under the dark of night. It becomes really important and shines a bright light on Greg Studrara and the Buckeyes offensive line recruiting, because here we head into the 2021 football season, and the Buckeyes offensive tackles are pretty darn good, right? You have Nick Petit-Frere and Thayer Munford, but beyond that, what do you have is a major question mark for Ohio State at the tackle position, outside of Paris Johnson, who you can sort of pencil in, I think, as a starter at one of the tackle spots in the 2022 season. Other than that, there's not really any true tackles on the roster, even if you count DeJuan Jones, who I'm not sure if he's a true tackle or not, sure, he's huge, but I still think his frame might make him more of a natural guard, just a huge guard. But you look at a guy like Kiante Goodwin here, and if Paris Johnson is what we think he is and what we've heard he is, which is maybe one of the best freshman offensive line players to ever come through Ohio State, the fairly realistic possibility is that Paris Johnson could be out of Ohio State after 1 year starting at tackle. And now you have even a greater need for a guy like Kiante Goodwin, because he is going to be counted on not just maybe as a potential impact player as a freshman, but a guy who could play 2 or 3 seasons as a starter at offensive tackle. And again, Josh Fryer, great player, very, very versatile. Matt Jones, versatile. Grant Tutop, versatile. Jacob James, all these guys are versatile players on the offensive line. But to have a true 6'8", 300-pound tackle body in the way that Kiante Goodwin's set up and the way that his future is developing, this is a future NFL player, and it makes him an absolute must-get to protect those quarterbacks and the running backs.
I think that at Ohio State, you always need to have a first-round tackle, and that's really hard to have. That really is hard to have. But this year, the Ohio State could potentially have 2 first-round tackles starting, and next year they'll probably have a first-round tackle in Paris Johnson. I think Kiante Goodwin has a chance to be a first-round tackle, and I think he's the kind of guy that you build an offensive line around, even if he plays tackle and not center like you usually would build an offensive line. When you have a guy this special, I think you could build an offensive line around him. And I'm going to keep saying that this is an absolute must-get for Ohio State. I think this is the kind of player that could set the tone along the offensive line, help Greg Studrawa get a lot of that out of state momentum back that kind of went to the wayside during the pandemic. I think this could be huge for the program, even in like the same vein as landing a 5-star wide receiver, a 5-star quarterback.
Yeah, and I believe personally that by the time this recruiting cycle is done, that Kiante Goodwin will be a 5-star prospect. Right now, he is the 10th ranked tackle in the country. And so you see this and you think, oh, must get. He's the number 10 ranked player at his position. But the development that you've seen from Kiante Goodwin in the last year, going from a kid who was close to 400 pounds last January to what he is now, speaks volumes about the person that he is off the field, the work that he's putting in to become great. We have talked about the fact that outside of the Ohio footprint, it has been difficult for Greg Studrawa to win those national battles. And the Buckeyes did that in 2018 when they signed Nick Petit-Frere. But that was because Greg Schiano was very closely involved at Nick's high school. And you had a little bit of a natural in there. Here you have Kiante Goodwin, who is from the Ohio footprint. Okay. I mean, he's only 2.5, 3 hours away from Columbus. That helps Ohio State. But you're looking at a kid who's got very close ties to the University of Kentucky with Wan'Dale Robinson now there. Kentucky, as we've talked about, has always done a great job recruiting that area in the offensive line, keeping guys from Ohio State and Alabama, et cetera. But then you have the big three. It's Ohio State, it's Alabama, Clemson. And I think that this battle eventually comes down to those three.
Yeah, and it's going to be fascinating because, like you said, Alabama stole a tackle from Ohio State this year, in a sense. J.C. Latham, Clemson, in a sense, stole Tristan Lay from a chance from any chance that Ohio State had of landing him, and that was going to be a huge get if Ohio State could somehow get him. And now each of those two have won a tackle battle against Ohio State. Now it's Ohio State's turn to step to the plate and really hit a home run here and land its surefire tackle prospect that it's been looking to land for the last couple cycles.
Right, and Clemson is the favorite for the number 2 ranked offensive tackle in the country in Gunnar Gibbons. There's a expectation that he'll end up there. So you have that building in the background as well. Ohio State really needs to go out and make sure that Kiante Goodwin is the foundation of their offensive line in this class. They do have Tegra Teshabola already in the mix. But what you see with Kiante Goodwin is a NFL upside in a current NFL body and a kid that the Buckeyes really, really need to wrap up in the class of 2022. And that's why he is the first player on the list for 2022. I'm Jeremy Birmingham. That's Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed it. Please rate, review, subscribe. We'll be back sometime soon with the next installment